Hello, welcome. India got independence on August 15, 1947. We are free now. Physically, we are free now. But are we free psychologically? Are we still following the British system only in every aspect, including the highest body, Parliament? Are we still following the British? Let us explore. The other one, what is the reason behind the success of the Silicon Valley? Or in fact, what is the history of the Silicon Valley? Why Silicon Valley is so famous? Why people are crazy about Silicon Valley? Why people try to call some cities as Silicon Valley of India? What is the reason? What is the reason behind the success? Software industry is there in many countries, but why? Why only the Silicon Valley is famous? So these things we are going to explore in this video. Hi, welcome. I am Channa Reddy. This video is based on three main references. Apart from many open literature books, articles, videos on YouTube, etc., there are three main references. The first one is the video on Gravity Plus by Palki Sharma Upadhyay, and the title is India Truly Free of British? That is one video. The other one is Steve Blank, not Steve Jobs, Steve Blank video, The Secret History of Silicon Valley. It is available on YouTube. Anybody can watch it. And one article or chapter from the book written by Tom Wolfe, Two Young Men Who Went West, in the book Hooking Up. But the article name is Two Young Men Who Went West. So these are the three main references I will be using for most part of my speech. Apart from it, my own observations, my own interpretations will be there. Okay, I'm not going to present exactly what they said. So my own interpretations, my own observations, I will try to use them at different points of time. So the first point, are we still following the British system? If you observe, say, the graduation day. So in the graduation day, whenever you go onto the stage, you are asked to bow down. Why? And it is highly formal ceremony. There is no Indian culture there. So the culture, etc., is that of British or the Western countries only. We are still following it. Even in the Parliament, if somebody has to approve what the speaker says, who are in favor say aye, and who are not in favor say no. What is this aye and no? This was the British system. We are still following it. And everywhere we follow the protocol. So for all the government employees, this protocol is a headache. Following the protocol is a headache. There are many controversies. You can see in almost at least once in a week, somewhere somebody claims that there is a protocol violation. So what is this protocol? Protocol is not Indian culture. It was introduced by British and we are still following it. So everywhere there is a hierarchy. In the society, there is a social hierarchy. In the society, there is social hierarchy. Even within the organization also, there is what is called as hierarchy. We always believe in the hierarchy. So we are still British, at least half British only. We are still following the British system. That is first point. Now, how this British system affects us? If it is good, we can follow it. But how it is affecting us? Does Silicon Valley really follow this British system? We will explore. The second one, what is the history of the Silicon Valley? In fact, what is the reason for the success of the Silicon Valley? What is the history? Why Silicon Valley is established? Do you know that Silicon Valley has its origins in the World War II? has its origins in the World War II. So in the World War II, Germans occupied most of the Europe. Germans occupied most of the Europe, and they were doing the land battle in the Soviet Union. They are actually present. They were fighting in the current Ukraine. Okay, the German forces were there, and they were fighting, and they were fighting, and they had unfavorable conditions because of the extreme weather. Because of the extreme weather. The other one is the Allied forces, including this, or mainly this United Kingdom or Britain, and then USA. What they have to do is, they have to fly all the way from the United Kingdom, go to the German, and then bomb their defense establishments. So air battle, because most of the Europe was occupied already by the Germans, so they cannot do the land battle there. So what they have to do is they have to fly all from the Britain, go to the German, and then go to the Germany, and then bomb the military establishments. But that was not an easy task, and they were trying it. But whenever 100 planes go, they used to lose 20% of them. The main reason is because Germany has already occupied this most of the Europe. They had radars installed throughout the Europe, and whenever the flights entered the zone, so radars used to detect them. And because radars are successfully able to detect them, so they get the information. They give the information to the planes, pilots, and then war related planes. So those planes go and they fired missiles, something like missiles or bombs at the Allied forces planes, and they were destroyed. And the radars was a big problem for them. For the Allied forces. So what they thought is there should be some way of disabling or destroying the radars. Now it is purely electronics. How to disable them? So for that, what they did is they established a secret lab in USA. And in the secret lab, they did the research. Frederick Terman was in charge from Stanford actually, but he went to the secret lab, and there they conducted the research how to disable the radars. So what they found is, if they can build what are called as aluminum foils, simple aluminum foils, half the wavelength of the radars, if they can drop them, they will temporarily disable the radars. So what they did is they collected huge number of aluminum foils, and these aluminum foils are taken in planes, and thousands of them are dropped throughout Germany, and they could successfully disable these German radars, and then they can bomb the German defense establishment. That is one side of the story. Okay, somehow because of extreme climate in Soviet Union and because of the successful bombarding of the defense establishment, and the other main reason being the decoding machine found by Alan Turing. So Alan Turing found a decoding machine which could successfully decode the German secret messages. So these are the three main reasons for the success of the Allied forces during the World War II. But fine, World War II was completed. But war-hungry souls didn't keep quiet. That's the basic problem. War-hungry souls didn't keep quiet. So both USA and Germany, USA and Soviet Union started testing the nuclear bombs. Soviet Union tested the nuclear bombs. They were testing many missiles, etc. Now USA considered as a threat to them. to their security. So the Cold War era started. Cold War era actually started. So during this Cold War era, so the research has to be done. Research has to be done. So different labs were established. Different labs were established. Different labs were established. Or at that point of time, the university started contributing. Before that, universities didn't contribute anyway to the defense establishment, except some researchers used to go to the defense labs. But now the defense labs came into the universities. So huge funding was given by defense establishments to the universities, to establish research-oriented labs. To establish research-oriented labs, and the main research should be towards the defense. It's not about academic research. So main research was towards defense. So they were heavily funded. And the in charge, who was the Terman, who was the in charge of the secret lab, he returned back to the Silicon Valley. He returned back actually to the Stanford. And what this person did is, so he relaxed many rules. He relaxed many rules in the university. So students were allowed to establish the companies. Companies, already established companies, can make use of the labs of the Stanford. Faculty can participate in those startups or companies. Faculty can contribute in the form of consultants. They get some money. In the process, but they were permitted. So huge incentives were given to new companies, research-oriented companies. So many companies have actually established again these research labs. Hewlett-Packard, IBM, etc. They established the labs. And William Shockley, considered to be one of the brilliant persons, also established a lab near the Stanford. At that time, it was called as Santa Clara Valley. But he also established a lab. And race continued. Race between the different companies or startups actually continued. So slowly this was converted into a microwave valley. So there are three contributions which are actually responsible for the success of the Silicon Valley. One is transistor, the other one is integrated circuit, the final one microprocessor. And this William Shockley, along with others actually, William Shockley is not actually the first person. So Borden and Walter Brattain, they are the persons who found the transistor. But they made use of the germanium. It was made out of the germanium. It was not a grand success at the beginning actually. Now, at approximately the same instant of time, William Shockley also actually found the transistor. You can say he has co-invented the transistor, but his transistor is based on silicon. Now it was a success. Some publicity was given to it because it was made out of silicon. Silicon has some good properties when compared to the germanium. So people started building transistors using silicon. Now the hero of our story or this video, Robert Noyce, who actually studied in a rural college, not in Stanford, MITs, etc. And at that time, rural colleges had very good reputation. So the rural colleges, people who study in rural colleges are actually effective. They are more successful. Even in India, if you consider nowadays also, so more successful people are people who come from the villages, because in villages you have to do everything on your own. In cities you have a number of resources, so you start thinking that your job is to do something specific and you don't do other things. But in the case of rural places, there will be no service personnel. All you have to do on your own. All you have to do on your own. The problem may be related to you, the problem may not be related to you, but you have to solve it. But Robert Noyce, who studied actually physics, who studied physics in rural college, joined William Shockley. William Shockley. That means he joined the company of William Shockley. William Shockley, a semiconductor company. A semiconductor company. There the research was carried out. Their research was carried out. But though the William Shockley was a brilliant person, as far as his intelligence is concerned, there is no doubt. But unfortunately, he was not a good administrator. He was not a good administrator. He was bad at it. In fact, he was bad at it. In fact, so what he did is, he started giving what are called as peer ratings. He publicizes the salaries. So he gave peer ratings, and he even used a lie detector. For some reason, he used a lie detector. The people in that semiconductor company established by William Shockley were not satisfied with it, because he was not behaving properly with the people, with the employees. So remember, the employees were equally capable persons. They were not inferior persons. But somehow William Shockley treated them in a bad manner. Now, what happened is, historically it is called as treacherous site. You can type treacherous site in YouTube, you can find a lot of information. Treacherous site. What these people did is, because they didn't like William Shockley behavior, so they went out of this semiconductor company of William Shockley. So two persons are Robert Noyce and then Gordon Murray. So you might have heard about the Murray law. So the number of transistors in a chip doubles every 2 years. That was the statement given by this Gordon Murray, which is still valid to a major extent now, even nowadays, though we are reaching the limit, but still valid. So these 8 people, called as treacherous 8, went from the semiconductor company of the William Shockley, and they established their own company called as Fairchild Semiconductor Company. Fairchild Semiconductor Company. They got some funding. From the original company called as Fairchild Camera. They got some funding, and there was one agreement according to which within the 8 years, by paying 3 million at any point of time, they can take over the company established by Robert Noyce and Gordon Murray. That was the agreement, but they still went ahead and they established a company called as Fairchild Semiconductor. Now, where they established it, now the actual inspiration starts from here. Where they established it? They established in a godown, something like a workshop or godown. Godown that was established, and there were no partitions. He abolished social hierarchy. That means all people are treated equally, including supporting staff, workers, managers, vice presidents, chairmen, whoever it be, all are treated equally. No dress code, no parking slots. Nowadays, you can see the parking slots are reserved for some people. In a college or in a university or in any organization for that matter, the parking slots are reserved for some people. Okay, so others should not park there. So there were no parking slots. There were no parking slots. No social hierarchy was there. All are treated equally. No dressing code. No dressing code. No separate chambers. No separate chambers. Everybody was in the workshop, and everybody can see the others. Everybody can see the others. Everybody can see the others. So there they started progressing. They started progressing. The other one is uh, William, this Robert Noyce, who was actually acting as a general manager also. They shared the responsibilities also. They were all technical persons, but they shared the responsibilities. That's the true characteristic of an entrepreneur. They share the responsibilities. Everything is done by them only. So Robert Noyce, what he did is he was the general manager, but he didn't had any separate chamber. He worked along with the workers. He worked along with the workers on the whole table. Research was carried out. Research was carried out, and because these people, all the employees of the organization had these shades, had these shades, had the shades. So they, what they did is they shared the goal of the organization. They actually shared the goal of the organization, and everybody started working towards the goal. Everybody were waiting for the breakthrough. It was not product oriented. Of course, in the case of Fairchild, it was a product oriented. Later, in the Intel, it was not product oriented initially. So they shared the goal. They shared the goal. Because they shared the goal, all contributed to it. All contributed to it. Anybody can purchase anything. There is no social hierarchy. You do not go to the higher person. Any department can go and purchase anything. There were no timings. There were no timings. Everybody is expected to come at 8 o'clock in the morning. Everybody is expected to come at 8 o'clock in the morning. So, but there was no attendance register. There was no attendance register. If everybody comes, it's okay. If somebody doesn't come, if they have done some overtime, it's also okay. It was also permitted. Rules were not strict. Rules were not strict. Timings were not strict. Timings were not strict. Depending on their convenience, they can work. But if some percentage of the employees in a department come late for say in a 3 months period, if it is increasing, then they should start signing in the register. Otherwise, they need not sign it. So self-discipline, Robert Noyce didn't believe in the punishments. So self-discipline. Every department is independent. Everybody can purchase. All were wearing the jeans. No traditional dresses. No traditional dresses or dress codes. No coats, etc. No air conditioners. No air conditioners. Okay. So that was the environment. Meanwhile, Robert Noyce found this integrated circuit. Integrated circuit. He is actually again the co-inventor. There are other inventors. Again, the transistor of the Silicon Valley. Transistor of the Silicon Valley was made of silicon only. Was made of silicon only, and it was a huge success. And sorry, not the transistor, the integrated circuit of this Robert Noyce was made of silicon and was a huge success. And the transistors also became successful because of this integrated circuit. So many transistors were placed in the integrated circuit. Many transistors were placed in the integrated circuit. And even the NASA started using these transistors and integrated circuits. So because of that, so the company shares were skyrocketing. Company shares were skyrocketing, and everybody was happy. Everybody was happy. Meanwhile, because there was an agreement between Fairchild Camera and the Fairchild Semiconductor, So this Fairchild camera actually took over this Fairchild Semiconductor. Fairchild Semiconductor. And Robert Noyce was made the general manager. Initially, he was happy, but the main problem was, so he was supposed to go to some part of the USA by wearing coat, etc., etc. He has to go there periodically, present in front of those people who don't have any technical knowledge. To be frank, who don't have any technical knowledge. So he got vexed with it. He got vexed with it. Now, because he was not satisfied with what is happening, so he, along with Gordon Moore, again went away from this Fairchild Semiconductor, and they started their own company called as Intel. Intel. Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore started this Intel. The same rules were followed at Intel also. The same rules were followed at Intel also. Now, Robert Noyce was very famous at Fairchild Semiconductor company. Many employees were working, and as soon as this Robert Noyce actually left this Fairchild Semiconductor, many other employees also left that Fairchild Semiconductor, and many companies have come up. Some of them went to the Intel, but majority of them established their own companies, and the culture was that of Fairchild Semiconductor only. No social hierarchy. That was the culture. So Intel was started. Robert Noyce discovered some memory chips, and again these memory chips were a huge success. Astronauts started using these memory chips, transistors, and integrated circuits, and people who went to the space communicated with the people on the ground using these electronic circuits only. So same culture was followed. That was established by Noyce, and in simple terms, it is called as Noyceism. And the progress continued. So progress continued, and now you know the reputation of the Intel. So almost, if it is microprocessor means Intel. In fact, the microprocessor was not found by the Intel. It was initially discovered by Ted Hoff. Which also had huge impact. Huge impact. So that is the reason behind the success of the Silicon Valley. Noyceism, or abolition of social hierarchy. Now you can see what is happening in India and Britain, etc. So social hierarchy is strictly followed. Probably that is one of the reasons for why the India is still a developing country only. It is not becoming a developed country because of this social hierarchy. In fact, some unions actually started to intervene, and they went to the Intel and they started preaching about the union, the rights, etc. People tried to conduct the elections also, but majority of the employees rejected the unions. And Robert Noyce considered these unions as hindrance to the development. So one fine day, Robert Noyce died. Because of heart attack. Non-religious ceremonies were held. After 10 years, people forgot him. But still, Noyceism persists in the Silicon Valley. Noyceism persisted in the Silicon Valley, and that is the reason behind the success of the Silicon Valley. So what are the points? We are still following the British. In summary, we are still following the British. We are still following the social hierarchy, and we are not getting much funding from the defense establishments, and even if some funding comes, so the that is for academic research only. That is for academic research only. Accountability is not there. Accountability is not there. Universities are not actually contributing to the defense. Universities are not no way contributing to defense, except in very, very rare cases. Things started changing, but still a long way to go. Long way to go. Probably the research labs are to be established. Defense oriented research labs are to be established. Some people should be given the responsibility, and they should be strictly accountable. They should be strictly accountable. It's not for getting PhD. It's not for, it should not be for, just for getting PhD. It's for development of the nation. It's for the development nation. So people should be strictly accountable. Probably the professors, etc., may not be in a position to make much contribution because it requires a lot of innovation. It requires a lot of innovation and hard work. Lot of innovation and hard work. So definitely the graduate students, postgraduate students can really contribute. That should happen in India. So people should be moved towards not just jobs, but they should be made to do the research, which is lacking in India. And the main point is noiseism. So abolish the social hierarchy, give liberty to the technical experts, let them purchase anything, whatever they want, within some limits, of course, but let them purchase, and let there be no so-called administrators or people higher up in the so-called hierarchy, and it takes a long path. It takes a lot of time to get the permissions. By the time people lose the enthusiasm, so no social hierarchy. Everybody should be made equally responsible. Everybody should be given some kind of share actually in the profit and losses. So that's what we have to do. So these are the lessons which we can learn from the Silicon Valley. So I call this video as lessons from the Silicon Valley, or in Telugu, Racharikam versus Nijamaina Prajaswamyam. Racharikam versus Nijamaina Prajaswamyam, or in simple terms, noiseism. So noiseism is what is required in any organization for the success of the organization. Hope organizations will realize at some point of time, and they will be successful, and they in fact contribute to the nation. Thank you very much.